I'm ill, mate. I've been back in the country coming up for 10, 11 days. And I've spent the last 5 days just ill. So I've got myself outside. I've got about 40 layers on. I'm going to do a bit of pike fishing, boy. Let's have it. The rod's out, boy. I'm not overly optimistic about an early bite because when I first got here I sort of looked on the surface of the water and I thought, what's all that? And, yeah, it's frozen, mate. So I spent probably an hour and a half with a 3-ounce lead and a size 6 treble on my lure fishing rod, just smashing away at the ice down the margins. And I've put a rod in the right hand margin and the left hand margin. It's just nice to be back on the bank, mate. This particular spot where I'm fishing is a syndicate that I'm a member of, and part of the club rules are that no video or pictures of the lake are allowed to go on social media. And I'm going to operate in a grey area to that. I'm thinking if I keep all of my frames nice and tight and no one can identify where it is from, the small frames and that, then I'm sweet. And there's a few pike in here. I fished it quite hard last winter, and I had some low doubles out, but I really worked for them low doubles. Love it, mate. I actually feel a little bit guilty fishing. I know it sounds silly, but I've got lots of things that I need to be getting on with before I go back to work. I'm going to clean my van out, clean the shed out. But yeah, come to the lake, mate. Clean your noggin out first. Bit of fishing, boy. Well, bit of sitting in the cold at the minute. Ain't been no fish. Well, as a bonus couple of hours fishing. Getting dark now, as I'm sure you can see. I'm going to walk up to the top of the road. I've still got no van. No van, mate. It's all a bit bare bones at the minute. I had too much fun when I was away. I spent too much money and I've come back a bit skint. But that's alright. I don't need a lot, mate. Travelling in style, boy. 20-minute bus ride, 20-minute walk. Anyway, I'll get down onto the water in a minute, mate. Get the old chair set up. I've got my pack up, boy. Cheap and cheerful, mate. Carry a bag with some sandwiches in. Hopefully the otter and all the other woodland critters haven't found my dead bait box, which is a Tupperware box, snapshot Tupperware box, put in a carrier bag and then that's suspended at height. So yeah, we'll wait and see if any them little buggers got it. Fair play to them if they did, eh? Rods are out, mate. Rods are out. I was using sardines yesterday. I've got herring on there now. I've got the tail section on the left hand rod and the head section on the right hand rod. And it's important that I remember that because I'm using circle hooks. So I take on the right hand rod as the bait is the head section. The hook is closest to the direction of travel in which the bait is going down. So the amount of time that I leave it before winding down to set the hook is less than the tail section. Does that make sense? I've got no floats on, just using them ledger stems. I used to use a float and I used to use trebles, and I just pulled free from nearly all. Last winter, I was having so much trouble. When I got up to 16 takes in a row that I pulled free from, and I just didn't have the bottle to leave it any longer. I felt like I was leaving it for a really long time before I wound down and set the hook. Yeah, and it was just too risky. The last thing you want to do is deep hook a pike. Yeah, 16. And then I watched a circle hook rig tying tutorial by a YouTuber called Spiky Mikey Angling, and yeah, it completely changed my pike fishing, mate. Then after that, it was my aim. To get 16 fish on the bank, one after the other. And I don't think I managed 16 in a row, but I think out of 20, I put 16 on the bank using the circle hooks. So yeah, go and have a look at Spiky Mikey Angling, and have a look at that circle hook wire trace rig. Absolutely simple as, mate, and it's loads better for the fish. There's no need to put 6 hooks on a rig. It's barbaric, mate, isn't it? Unless it's a lure, unless it's something that's, you know, you're retrieving, it's going to get caught on the snap, on the take. Something where you're waiting for a fish to ingest 6 hooks. It's not very good. Rig. Well, there's no whopper, but he's a welcome pike. He's only a little jack. I'm absolutely buzzing with that, mate. Let's get him back, eh? Absolutely covered in lice. That's not something I want on me. I'll just give him a little rest before I put him back. Buzzing with that, mate. Buzzing with that. It's only a little babby, but yeah, I had a take on the left-hand rod a little while ago, and the left-hand rod I'm fishing with the tail section, and the right-hand rod I'm fishing with the head section, and I always favour the tail, so I put the right-hand rod on the tail section as well, recast it. 10-15 minutes later, mate, yeah, this little fella here, he's been resting in the net for a couple of minutes. He's thrashing about a bit. I think he's good and strong to go, so I'll let him be. See you later, mate. Get in there. Buzzing with that. Absolutely buzzing with that. I was on the phone with a nurse from the hospital, from the vein clinic. She was like, what are you doing today? And I was like, I'm fishing. And then my rod started going off, and I was going, I've got to go. And now I'm thinking, maybe I should have just put the phone down and said I'll talk to you in a sec, but I just went into full excitement mode. I'm absolutely over the moon with that. The pike he had a lot of lice on him. And I think they get that from when the water's very cold and they sort of bury themselves into the silt. Yeah, and they just hold up for a little while. When I got here yesterday, the water, the surface of the water was all frozen over, so that would make sense. But I always like to make sure that they're completely off, and they are. Over the moon with that, mate. It's only a little babby, but I just love catching them. Have a quick look at the rig. It's as simple as, mate. We've got a ledger stem with I think it's a 1 ounce lead on, foam ball at the top to keep that buoyant. The lead keeps that on the deck. Off of there comes your wire trace, which is a tied wire trace to a size 8 swivel, down to a 5/0 circle hook, right? And that's just on an overhand loop knot. And with a loop knot coming out of the back of the hook, when it pulls back, it finds the point. It finds the point in the hook. And you don't strike with these. You just tighten up the clutch and just consistently and firmly, but without shaking the rod, just keep winding down and winding down and winding down. You don't strike. I wind down until I feel that it's really tight to wind. Then I'm confident that it's in the pike's mouth as much as it's going to go, and then I pull round. But again, not a strike. I just lean right round, and then I hold the rod up, and I'm confident that I've hooked him. There's always a little bit of worry, but I think it comes from fishing when I used to use dead baits with trebles. The worry that the hook is in the pike's guts, right? And that's never happened for me. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's never happened for me on the circle hooks. But with the wire traces, with the 2 sets of trebles, you know, you could have 2.5, 3 inches between the sets of trebles, and the timing of getting that, you could have the water temperature, the pressure, the activity of like the pike dependent on size. If you get a particularly aggressive pike and he just has it down, and you're giving him the same timings as what you've given the last 5 or 6 fish, yeah, you could quite easily swallow that bottom set of trebles, and yeah, just makes you feel awful. You know, even if you get it out, you've still pulled him around on his insides, and you've had to snip the hooks, and yeah. But this week here, mate, absolutely changed my pike fishing. Started using it about a year ago, and I didn't create this. I was absolutely ready to quit dead baiting for pike, because I just kept watching videos, and I was watching other people catching, and I was thinking, there's something that I'm doing wrong, mate, because I just keep pulling free from these fish, or even when I'm hooking into them. I wasn't sure if it was my striking, and yeah, I spoke to loads of people, and every time I spoke to them, they couldn't figure out either. And then I watched a few boys on YouTube, and one of them was Spiky Mikey Angling. And I saw this rig, I saw this hook, and I thought, I'm gonna try something new before I quit dead baiting. And I'm onto that. Never look back, mate. I will never, ever use trebles on a dead bait ever again. I haven't done since I went onto these over a year ago. I'll never go back. It's so much simpler. And if you want to know how to tie the rig, go over to Spiky Mikey Angling's YouTube page and have a look, and then have a look at all of his videos as well, because he puts out some great content.
I'm a Norfolk boy, and I'm proud to come from somewhere 1,000